Hey guys, it is Kick Ass Fridays. Man, I love doing these Friday shows. You know, I get a free format to talk about whatever the hell I want to do. Well, if you guys have been listening to the show, you know that I'm doing some behind the scenes stuff, and I'm bringing in some of my former guests to do some Q&A things. And you know, we're setting up a time to really dive into a lot of these episodes in a group that we're still forming up, and it's growing. So one of the perks of one of the levels of this group, so there's various levels in there, but it's only $5 to start. But one of the perks is if you hit a certain level, then you get to pick the topic for the Friday show. How cool is that? So my buddy Patrick Mudge was the first one to hit this level, and we talked back and forth. And what he asked me to speak about for this Friday show is strategic networking. Not just networking in general, but how do you actively go and put a full strategy to be able to get to the right people that you need to get to. So that's what we're going to do on this episode, guys. We're going to talk about strategic networking, really dive into what it takes to make a lot of money when it comes to networking. Hope you enjoy this one. Hey, got something really cool I wanted to run by and let you know what's going on. So I'm starting a group that will start taking a deep dive into each one of these episodes. So we'll collectively come together and talk about the shows, talk about the guest. I'll be bringing back some of the guests to do some Q&A sessions and really take a further dive into their story, their journey, the episode, talk about, you know, maybe some of the things you wish I would have asked on the episodes, do some Q&A sessions and the like. As a friend put it to me, it's really like a book club, but for the podcast. So a couple times a week, we'll go in, we'll break down the favorite shows of the week, and have cool discussions around everything that we've heard, we've learned, and want to know about their journey. Some of these guests will come in and they'll teach part of, you know, what makes them awesome at what they do. And then, as always, I'll be providing regular value and content in this group. It's really cool because this only is going to cost $5 a month to join this group. And you'll be able to come in, interact with everybody else in there. So I'll put a link right in the show notes for this that you can jump in, come have a conversation with us, and we will really deep dive into each one of these episodes and help us all rise up together. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's going to be a great show today. You know, having the show wasn't something I started out to do, but the day I found out somebody wanted to really sponsor the show was a really, really cool experience. So guys, I want you to take some time to go check out Point Blank Safety Services and their new nonprofit, Blue Family Fund. These guys are doing some really, really cool things, and Stacy McGovern, who's the CEO over there, has been a dear friend, and she was a guest on the show. You know, but these guys are literally taking, you know, the off-duty officers and putting them out in security guard role. And here's what's cool about it is, you know, as they're protecting our lives, you know, they don't make a whole lot of money in that regard. No first responders are paid for the value they provide for our safety and our health and taking care of us. So these guys, you know, Stacy and her team over at Point Blank Safety Services have really found a cool way to give back to these officers by helping them provide an additional income so they can continue to support and protect us. So do me a favor, guys. Seriously, go check out pointblanksafety.com and then go look at their nonprofit, which is Blue Family Fund. Now, this nonprofit was created because of the success of Point Blank Safety Services. They wanted to give back to the families of fallen officers and be able to give scholarships away to the families of current, police officers. So do me a favor. It would mean the world to me if you would go out and help support this show by supporting Point Blank Safety Services and their nonprofit Blue Family Fund. Just tell them Donnie has sent you. You heard it on Donnie's Success Champions, and Stacy will take a tremendous and amazing care of you. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so this is going to be fun. Just why I love talking about networking, it's really, really simple. There's a book written many years ago called 6 Degrees of Separation, and it literally states that you can get to any person in the world with about 6 connections. So, you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, right? So you can pick anybody in the world, and within 6 connections you can get there. Which is a really cool thing to think about, and it makes this world really, really small. Here's an interesting thing. In my hometown, Fort Worth, Texas, which, I love telling people this because the look on their face I get sometimes is funny, but Fort Worth is actually the 16th largest city in the U.S., and it's also one of the fastest growing. I can't say the fastest. One of the fastest growing ones there is. But Fort Worth is still like the Mayberry. So for you young kids, Mayberry's from the Andy Griffin Show. Go YouTube it. But it's really like the Mayberry of big cities. And literally, everybody in town knows who everybody is. So if you've ever seen a show where you've got, the small town where everybody knows everybody, that kind of one-stop-like feeling, Fort Worth is not that small, but the vibe of Fort Worth is. And so to get good in this game, and to show you how small it is, most of the world's 6 degrees of separation. And Fort Worth, it's about 2 degrees of separation. You can get introduced to anybody you want, and usually at about 2, maybe 3 contacts. It's that small. Okay? Once again, that's small by culture. Okay? So, I've sold in a number of states, and I will tell you that Fort Worth is by far the craziest market I've ever sold in. And here's why. Fort Worth still runs on the good old boy system. And I don't mean a bunch of old dudes smoking cigars. I just mean everything's done through conversations at different venues and places. It's really hard to do the traditional sales in Fort Worth because, everybody knows everybody and everybody knows how to get to everybody. So, cold calling still works. I built a tremendous business doing cold calling. But the number one way to scale and grow your business in this town is through strategic networking. And you've got to get tactical as hell to be able to pull off what needs to be done to really, really grow your business. So to walk you through some of the things I've done, I'm going to talk about some friends of mine and how they've really done very, very well and built business around making introductions and continue to grow and scale. And then I'll weave in my story as well with this. So strategic networking, in my opinion, is really about having a very specific target. So think about it. If you wanted to get to the CEO of a major corporation. It's how do you go about, through networking, getting that person to engage in a conversation. Okay? So that's what I think of when I think of strategic networking. Okay? So, one friend of mine, we're going to call him Bob. So, Bob is one of the most connected guys in my hometown. This dude knows everybody. And there's a couple things that I like about Bob. Bob is humble-esque, shy-esque, but an idea guy all day long. And when he started out his company, he would go out and network. And he made a living off of, giving marketing advice and coaching people through marketing. What he found along his journey is he was just really good at connecting people. When I say good, I mean he could put two people in the same room and have them have a sit-down conversation without them knowing that it was staged. And what I mean staged is, he made sure both people from both parties were sitting at the table. Now, he started doing this off early in his career, making these cool introductions. And he would do it all the time. He'd find out, what one person needed to meet the other, and he'd find a way to get them together. So that's how it all started. Now let me walk you through his business model. So what Bob does is Bob partners up with a company. And this is brilliant, guys. He partners up with a company and takes them on as a marketing client. So he comes in as a marketing consultant. And what he does is he'll tell them that I will help you guys market your company so you can meet the right people. They then sit down together and they come up with a key target list of the people that they want to get to. Now, Bob's got a ridiculous Rolodex. I mean, the dude knows a ton of people, but he doesn't really know everybody. So when he sits with his client, they come up with a very specific list of targets that they need to go after. From there, from that list, he starts putting together a game plan. And he will jump on somebody's profile, like on LinkedIn, Facebook, or other outlets, and start figuring out where these people hang out at. Now, the clientele he's rubbing elbows with, guys, you're not going to find at a chamber event. You're not going to find at a BNI group. You're not going to find at a local everyday networking type thing. He's going after these high-end CEOs, executives, and people so he can get a relationship and make a very, very strategic introduction. So he starts putting together almost a dossier on these individuals. And he'll break down, what are they into? So on LinkedIn, you'll know people put on there things they're interested with, associations they're a part of, and other things that they do. Well, he starts creating, like I said, a dossier that'll put in there that is, a member of this association, is the chairman of this association, sits on a board of this nonprofit, okay? And now that he's got all of these, he goes to the event calendar of every one of those things that person's associated with. And he starts making out a calendar of where this person's going to be. Now, the Rolodex comes into play for Bob because he'll find a event that he knows that this key target is going to be at. And it's probably a private event at a high-end, dinner, evening, cocktails, something, right? Something that you need an invitation for. Now, Bob goes deep into his Rolodex and figures out who's running that event. And with a matter of a few conversations and phone calls, he'll find himself on the guest list. Now, I will tell you, that's done from years, and I mean years, of networking and making connections and always trying to meet the next person. So now that he's on the guest list, this is where he goes to work. Because now he's going to go to this event and make sure that he meets that key target. Right? I mean, he'll find himself face to face, belly to belly, handshake to handshake, talking with this key target. Now, everybody in town knows Bob's reputation. Knows that's what he does, is he makes connections and networking. So everybody is willing to shake his hand. Because you never know when you're going to need a guy like Bob. Right? You never know when Bob can open a door or two for you. So everybody takes this conversation. During that conversation, Bob is one of the greatest listeners in the world. What Bob is listening for is something of value that he can bring that individual. So let's say he's meeting a CEO of a major company. This is the target he's going after. And in the conversation, somehow it comes up through questions, through just general conversation, that CEO is sitting on the board for a local nonprofit. And on that board, they've hit a roadblock and they need an introduction to an oil and gas money that may have sympathy and want to be a donor to their nonprofit, okay? And this CEO doesn't have that introduction. So Bob's looking for leverage. And what Bob will do is he'll hear that key thing, he'll make a mental note of it, keep it as small talk, and then when he goes home that night, he sits down at his desk, and he writes out all of his notes, and then he goes back and he listens for, remembers those key things that came up. So let's go back to this. This CEO needs to meet a CEO of an oil and gas company to hopefully get a donation for their nonprofit. Okay? Following? So what Bob will do is go through his Rolodex and figure out who in his world knows a CEO of an oil and gas company. Or maybe he already has a relationship with a CEO of an oil and gas company. Okay? That next day, instead of sending a follow-up letter to the target saying, hey, really nice to meet you, we should sit down and grab a cocktail or we should, go grab a coffee or have a meeting. What's done in traditional networking. What Bob will do instead is say, hey, during our conversation, one of the things I heard you bring up is you were really trying to get to the CEO of an oil and gas company. I happen to have a friend named Mark who runs an oil and gas company. I've already reached out to him, and he's open to having a conversation with you. What's the best way I can make an introduction? Now, here's the interesting thing. Right? Bob hasn't asked anything of the target. Right? Hasn't, said anything to the target whatsoever about needing anything. He's coming to the table 100% to give him what he's looking for. 100% of the time, that target comes back and says, absolutely, please make that introduction. So Bob makes the introduction, email, whatever. Or sometimes he'll set up a lunch where he's the third party bringing the two guys together, or maybe it's cocktails, or whatever. He'll create that face-to-face meeting. What happens usually is after that meeting, the target a lot of times will reach out to Bob, thanking him for that introduction, whether it turned into a deal for them or not, and say, how can I return the favor? It's just magic. And what Bob will do is, because now he has a little bit of leverage, is he'll say that he has somebody who'd like to be introduced to him. And that somebody that wants to be introduced to him is Bob's client. So now they put the two gentlemen in the room. Now here's the interesting thing, is every time he does that sit-down meeting, or he partners two people up, he gets a little bit of leverage. And it's not that somebody owes him something, because that's not the case. But it's definitely the case of there's a unspoken truth. So it's not that anybody owes Bob anything. But it's kind of mafia-esque that you owe me a favor. But it's, you got to understand me, it's not done with that expectation. Bob's not making these introductions and meeting these people expecting anything in return. He's just doing the right and proper thing by opening the door first, which is huge. And a lot of people, when they're thinking of networking, they get it in their head that everybody should be giving them something. When if you've listened to my other episode of networking, you know that I'm 100% about growing other people's businesses. That's what networking really is for me. Okay? So when Bob makes these introductions, he almost gets that red line, bat phone connectivity to the people who he's helping out. Because at some point, somebody else is going to need that original target outside of his client, right? They're going to need that introduction. And Bob's going to be able to pick up the phone and go, hey, Mr. Target, you know, I was talking to another CEO, and I think you guys should have a conversation. And because of the value Bob brought the first time, that CEO will take that meeting 99.9% of the time. It's really, really cool. Right? Now, this is strategic as you can get when it comes to networking. And the same philosophy works everywhere. So it's not just in my hometown. It works everywhere. So picture this. You have a celebrity you want to get to. Somebody that is, in your mind, so far out of your league that you don't know how to meet them. You leverage this style of networking to get to them. Now, the easiest way is to send a direct message that has no ask in it whatsoever, right? Even on my podcast, as I continue to grow, I'm already starting to get the messages of people wanting to sell me things as part of the podcast. And they don't even try and do anything other than sell me something. Now, you want to get to me, come with a solution to a problem that I may have. Right? So, here's a great way, is I run a podcast. I have a coaching business. Right? I have a content marketing company. Small media company. So, if you wanted to help me, something you could do would be something along the lines of, a lot of your show. I love it. I'm betting that you are always looking for guests. I happen to know somebody who has a great story. Story is XYZ. Would you want to talk to him? And this is what my friend Heather Vickery did for me, just recently. Is she sent me an email and said, hey, I'm going to introduce you to this gal. This is her story. Do you want to meet her? And I'm instantly, immediately, absolutely. And now, in my mind, I owe her one. Now, she doesn't expect me to do anything and owe her one or anything like that. But she really, really did me a solid. Right? Now, not that she would ever do this, but now if she were to call up and say, hey, Donnie, I have a business proposition for you. Would you give me an hour of your time? That answer, without a shadow of a doubt, is 100% yes. Because she came with value first. I hope that makes sense. So it's the same thing with if you're going after celebrities and people that you believe are out of your league. Is you got to figure out specifically what they need. Right? And then go open a door for them, make an introduction for them. And it's going to take some work, guys. It's not like you're going to always be able to find low-hanging fruit and be able to make introductions. But I will tell you that once upon a time, one thing that I did is reading my local business journal. There was an article on a CEO, and in the article, he happened to put out there that he was needing either content, it was needing an introduction for something, and that was a guy I wanted to talk to. So I literally, went through my Rolodex, found who I knew could make that introduction, and then my first email ever to that CEO was, hey, reading an article, saw you'd mentioned X. I happen to have somebody. Is it okay if I make an introduction between the two? And it took him about an hour to reply, and he immediately came back and said, please do. And I did not intentionally follow up with him. And I, made the introduction. 2 days later, he responded back to me saying, thank you so much for the introduction. We figured out how to get the plan working together. And he asked me, how can I return the favor? And my response is, would you ever be up for me buying you a cup of coffee or buying you lunch? And he said, well, why don't I just invite you in my office and we'll drink my coffee? Went in and had a conversation. And now that all comes about because I went out of my way to try and find a way to solve a problem or issue. So the best way to find things that people need is to pay the damn attention. Put yourself in their shoes. What could possibly be something of value that you could bring them? Something that, you could find. There's a guy named D-Rock. That's one of Gary V's videographers that I follow on Twitter. And while following him on Twitter, you'll see him from time to time throw out things like, and this happened, yesterday. He put out a tweet that said, hey, looking for videographers in the LA office. Must be willing to put in the time and hustle. And I went through those comments just to see how people were responding. And some of the comments were, hey, I'd be willing to move. I'd do this. And what really surprised me is no one came to the table and said, hey, D-Rock, like what you got going on here, have some introductions. What's the best way to get that information to you? everybody was going straight at him. And I'm sure it happened. You just didn't see it as part of, the whole thing. But I'm sure it happened to where somebody sent him a direct message with the guy or gal's information that he would. Nobody was. A couple of guys tried to bring value, but now somebody like D-Rock is looking for videographers. Now, if you need to get to D-Rock, very specifically, if I'm in your shoes, I'm now going to put together a Rolodex of videographers that are very specifically young, that may live in the LA area or want to move to the LA area, and all into the guys. Now I'm looking up every headquarters locations of VaynerMedia, and I'm going to start putting together that Rolodex of key contacts that fit in that genre, from videography to social to copywriters, whatever, graphic designers, and knowing that D-Rock's going to be looking for those type of people, I'm going to go see if I can make as many introductions in under that umbrella as possible and bring as much value to him. And literally every other day or so, drop him a new name and a new introduction. Hey, ran across this person that I think will fit in your, that may fit in your style, may fit in your culture. Here's a link to this guy's portfolio. Would you like me to make an introduction? And I'm going to become a tangible asset for D-Rock. So anytime he has the thought, I need X, I want my name to pop up first because I've already delivered and brought him so much value. But if I can deliver him 10 to 30 top candidates that would fit even when he's not looking, right? Even when he's not in the market and hasn't put that post out there, he's going to think of me when something pops up. Even better if he hires one of the introductions I can make. Because if he, hires that person, and really if they work out, now my relationship with him, even though we've never shaken hands, has completely gone to a whole nother level. And it's gone to a whole nother plane. It's really a cool thought process. Now, this is all hypothetical. I have no desire to, I have no reason at this point to do business with D-Rock. But I use it as an example of, as you go about your day, start looking at your strategic people that you're going after and really start dialing into, how can I help them? How can I help them grow their business? How can I really help them go for it and go bigger? And do it in a way that is genuine, is real, and really, really opens some doors and gets them what they're looking for. You're just going to have to get creative in finding out what they need. And I will tell you, a lot of the low-hanging fruit is probably going to come from their nonprofits they're involved with, their associations they're involved with, their extracurricular things more so than their companies. Because, very few CEOs will just put out there into the stratosphere, what they need or are looking for. They seem to be more closed off. So you got to go through the ancillaries. So, things I've done in the past is if my target that I need is part of a nonprofit board. I'm just going to throw that out there again. I may not know specifically what my target needs, but if I watch that nonprofit, you're going to see that they have events come up, galas come up, lunches, and whatnot. What I would do as soon as one of those events come up is I would start going through my contacts and go, okay, who would be the best fit for that event that this target probably doesn't know? So I will play corporate matchmaker and reach out to my contact who I have a relationship or a friendship with and say, hey, saw this event that I think you would enjoy, and I think, you will make some great contacts for your company. Would you want to go? And if the response is yes, I said, well, here's what I want to do. I'm going to send you an invite to a CEO who I'm trying to form a relationship with. I put this all on the table with them. And introduce you as somebody who is looking to attend, buy a ticket, and just leave it out there. So the email is going to sound something along the lines of, hey, Mr. Target, I saw this event with a nonprofit you're associated with. My friend would really like to attend this gala, this lunch, this dinner, this anything. I thought you might be able to help them out, as I know you sit on the board. So please let you guys take it from here. Have a great time. Now, it's amazing how that simple of an introduction, that simple little gesture, has allowed me to get into so many fun conversations, because I'm not coming in with a major ask, hey, can we have a meeting? Or, hey, can we go get coffee? Or I'm just coming in saying, hey, I have something I can bring value to you. So, strategic networking, guys, really is putting a true strategy behind who you want to get to. And putting that plan, executing that plan, and then, doing it again. And remember, you're building a networking net. Connections everywhere, with people everywhere, all under the flag of how can I help you grow your business. You're just doing it at a lot higher level. So Patrick, brother, I really appreciate this topic. If you guys haven't heard the episode with Patrick Mudge, go back and listen to it. It's one of my favorite episodes on this podcast. It's the first podcast where I shut the hell up through most of it, because that dude has got a badass story and you really got to hear it. But go back and listen to it and his story. Engage with him with all the things he's got coming up. He's got some cool things coming out very soon. So Patrick, thank you for your support of the show. Thank you for, being a friend and a confidant as I continue on my journey. And thanks for this topic on strategic networking. Guys, have a great and awesome day. Enjoy your weekend and keep kicking ass for me, will you? Thanks.
Guys, thanks so much for listening to this episode. I hope you were impressed by it as much as I was. Man, keep kicking ass in life. Please do me a favor. Comment, share, tell your friends about this. Every share just brightens my day. I appreciate it.